There are different ways to build wealth through real estate. There's not just one strategy, one formula, one benchmark to look at. There are various ways to get to the point of actually building wealth. And that's why not all investors are the same. Now, the next investor we're going to feature is Brian Maginnis, and he's a tremendous person with a unique way of investing here in Long Beach. Currently, Brian owns 59 doors in the city of Long Beach, a few commercial buildings, and also 15 self-storages. So over 5,500 self-storage units out of state. Hi everyone, I'm Juan, president of Sage Real Estate, your fourplex market leader and your highest rated multifamily broker here in Long Beach. And today we're gonna highlight our second investor in what we call our investor series. This investor series is developed for you, our viewers, because as an investor, there are three things that you're looking for. Most folks wanna create passive income, so income that they don't have to go to work for. They wanna build wealth. They wanna be able to leave a nest egg to their family, their wife, their kids, and they want financial freedom. The investors that we're going to be highlighting are investors that have already achieved every single one of those goals that I've talked about. They have tons of experience, and we're going to learn from them. How is it that you got started? When did you decide to buy your second property? How did you keep going? What were some tips that you learned? What would you do differently? And we're going to extract that from them so we could give you guys that information to help you guys build wealth. Now, the next investor we're going to feature is Brian Maginnis, and he's a tremendous person with a unique way of investing here in Long Beach. Currently, Brian owns 59 doors in the city of Long Beach, a few commercial buildings, and also 15 self-storages. So over 5,500 self-storage units out of state. Vast experience. He's been doing this a very long time, and we have a lot to learn from him. The one thing about Brian that you'll take away is how active he is in managing his properties. He'll joke around that he carries around a tool bag in his car because he's not afraid of getting his hands dirty, fixing a toilet, fixing that leak that a tenant called him on. But he always wants to make sure that he plays an active role in selecting his tenants. It's important to him that he selects very good people. He wants to surround himself around very trustworthy people, and we certainly admire that. He's an active buyer still today. He's an investor here in Long Beach. He's up to date with all the tenant laws. He's out there doing the leasing, dealing with vacancies, and dealing with all the repairs that any landlord is going to be dealing with, but he's doing it at a very successful level. I'm really excited to have you learn from Brian Maginnis. He's 71 years old. He could certainly sit back on a boat and retire, but he continues to invest in real estate. Here's the interview. Brian, tell us what first inspired you to get started in real estate investments.
Well, it's a great question, and kind of an unusual story. I worked at the airport, and one of the co-workers that I had was a mechanic, and he was selling his house, $23,000. And he told me, he says, you know, if you want to buy it direct, I'll sell it at $21,000. I didn't have much experience. And I said, wow, that's a great idea. And so I walked into a bank close to my house, and I asked him for a loan. I was very put off because I was very young, and they kind of laughed at me. You know, what do you want a home loan for? That kind of set the tone of, I can't get a loan, therefore I want to get a loan. And this guy was kind of a mentor to me. He really helped me with my job. I really respected his lifestyle. And so that kind of got me thinking about real estate. A year later, married and looking for our first home. The price of the home was $32,000.
Okay.
That house is not worth $30,000. This is ridiculous. And of course, I had the pressure from the home front. We got to buy a home.
Yeah.
Fast forward about 4 months, and we paid $42,000 for almost the identical home.
Because
Prices accelerated so quick.
Okay. So what we're experiencing now, you've had a chance to experience before.
Well, that was a major motivator.
Yeah.
Because it was like, if I just would have made a decision, if I just would have decided to buy that, I would have been $12,000 richer today.
Sure.
I pinched my pennies. So that taught me a good lesson.
It seems to me like you had some success and you just kept buying properties. And it wasn't so much like, hey, I'm buying it for this purpose. But I guess now, now looking back, there's been a lot of benefits to the risks that you took or the decisions that you made.
Right. An instructor at Cal State Long Beach Yeah, for some reason, I remember this very well. He said the number one responsibility is taking care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have disposable income, act like you're the biggest deal in the world and keep reinvesting that income. He says, but don't ever jeopardize your family and the people, immediately in your life. Always have a little nest egg for them, but take that extra money and go for broke with it. And I remember, he was kind of a rebel in a lot of ways himself, because he was, an instructor teaching us all about it. But yet he was saying, once you're secure, once Maslow's theories are taken care of, then go for it. Don't mess around.
Sure. You've been investing in real estate a long time. Like, what do you like best about owning real estate? Like, what makes it fun?
The funnest part, and again, I'm kind of a rebel. The funnest part is dealing with the people, my tenants. I take a great pride in making sure I get the right people. I want people around me that are, good, solid people. That really helps me with my sanity. I don't need to do this. I enjoy it.
Just because you mentioned, we're in real estate to make money. So let's talk about cash flow. Let's talk about appreciation. What are your thoughts in terms of folks who are like, okay, I'm only going to buy for this reason, or what advice do you have for someone when we're comparing the two and we're trying to figure out what to go for?
That's another textbook question. And I guess it depends on who's asking the question. When I was in school, I was told, it's all about money, it's all about cash flow, it's all about, living day to day with the money that you have. Once I reached that level that I had enough money to survive, I kind of threw all those rules away. And I don't necessarily look at a property today in cash flow. And again, every investor out there is going to say, this guy's a nut. Well, you know what, I am, but I look at the long-term picture. I can buy property in Arizona and I can buy property in other states and have a positive cash flow. But that's not going to help me with my sanity, because I want to walk through. I want to check it out. I don't want to have to pay a property manager, $95 to put up a no trespassing sign,
Right.
And that makes me feel good. Now, so my recommendation is, what's worked well for me is to stay close to home and try to do it that way. That way you can kind of get a sense of satisfaction out of what you do.
And for the folks that are just getting started, they kind of have a longer lifespan in their investment career. I always tell them, like, hey, this is a two-part approach. First, start with the goal of appreciation, investing in Southern California. Let that appreciate, make that nest egg. And then once you're older and you need that cash flow, then at that moment is when you should consider kind of switching the strategy. So I always think it's kind of a two-step process. Go for appreciation first, and then once you've met that goal, then we go for cash flow. So that's just some of the advice that I give some of the younger folks.
Yep, and that's good stuff. There's two levels in your life that you have to consider. We talked a little bit about, you've got to just meet your basic needs in life and provide for your family. And that's a whole different strategy when you do that. But then once you start investing, it becomes totally different. My recommendation is, when you're in that mode of providing, and mine was $1 million in the bank. I wanted $1 million and I wanted my house paid off.
Okay.
And that was earlier on in my life. Now, I don't care if my house ever gets paid off.
Okay.
Because I want to leverage my house.
Sure.
Now, I don't, that doesn't make Vicky comfortable, but the rest of what we do makes her real comfortable. So, what I'm saying is not necessarily the game plan for your whole life. It's a game plan that I'm living now. And
sure.
It's totally different.
Sure. So let's talk about comfort. You talked about comfort. And I would think, just knowing a little bit about you, you've been able to successfully invest in self-storages out of state. Yep. And I would imagine that that's probably created some level of comfort with the success of those buildings. Can you talk to us about investing in self-storages, how you got started, what you like best, and maybe we could extract some of that stuff from you?
Sure, yeah. Self-storage was a dream of mine 20 years ago. And I was in the equipment rental business. And that's how I, got to that first level in my life of, being comfortable with myself and my family. Then I had this crazy idea to get involved in self-storage in North Carolina.
Okay.
And it was truly a crazy idea. But once again, I kind of walked the walk. Family friend, his son, asked me, if you're going to start over, what would you do? And I said, self-storage.
Okay.
And this guy was 21 years old at the time. And let me back up a little bit, because this is a great story. 2 years earlier, he called me up and wanted to borrow $75,000 to build a house.
Okay.
Now I'm like an 18-year-old person.
Right.
And a good friend of my dad, I'm with his dad, and I'm with his dad on our way down to a race in San Diego. And he calls me up, I put him on speaker, and he said, I want to borrow $75,000. And his dad's going,
don't do it.
Yeah. He didn't know his dad's enough. I didn't loan him $75,000, and the reason I didn't loan it was because he already had a loan at the bank, but he was irritated that the bank was going to charge him $25 every time he made a draw. And so he put the roof on the house, the bank comes over, charges him $25 to say, yep, you put a roof in the house. And so he sent me a ticket, and I flew in to see his house that was done. And it was like unbelievable. That's when he asked me, what are you going to do? If you had to start over, what would you do? Self-storage. At 3:30 in the morning, we went to bed. He woke me up at 6:30. We looked at 20 self-storage facilities, and we bought one about 3 months later.
Okay.
We bought a piece of land, and he built the first building. That's what got us started in self-storage, and that was literally a retirement goal of mine. We built about 60 units, and 21 years later, we have 5,500 units.
5,500 units.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's turned out very well.
I love it. Yeah.
When you're looking at properties in Long Beach, I have some investors that, hey, I want value add, or I want your major fixers, I want your burn down properties. What kind of properties are you looking for, Brian?
Mostly I attract towards properties that are, 85% well run, 85% maintained. They have reasonable people in there. A great example, and I really enjoy using real life examples. This morning I met a young person who I've been dealing with for probably 2 years now. I met him at one of my open houses. We've been communicating back and forth. Well, he wants to buy a piece of property, and he's probably 28 now. And so I went over and we looked at the piece of property together.
Yeah.
So, I looked at, how do they maintain this property? It was almost amazing because the property manager happened to be there. It was a vacant unit. The broker didn't know where we were going. Yeah. Of course. And the property manager was there. So we got to look at the inside of the unit. We got to talk to the property manager. 3 minutes later, the two tenants that were going to rent the unit were actually there.
Yeah.
And so now I got an idea of what kind of people are going to move into this property. And in a matter of maybe 35 minutes, we got all this information. So I'm looking, how's it maintained? How is it run? There happens to be a bootleg unit on the back of it. Okay. And we talked about that. So I try to get a real life idea of, what kind of property is it? And again, I don't want to discredit you or anybody else, but I want to see what's going on. I want to see how many meters are on the property. Right. I want to figure out how many preventative maintenance things I'm going to have to do. I want to look at the roof. I want to look under the sinks so I can get a clearer picture of expenses. Yeah. And this particular one this morning, it was bizarre because the broker underestimated the revenue. Now, that's the first in my entire career. Yeah, sure. I'm giving you real life experience of 3 hours ago. Yeah. So the property manager told us what they're actually going to rent it for. Sure. So the moral of that is do your own homework. Yes. And really dive into these properties on your own. When you're first starting, find somebody who is willing to share their experience with you so you don't have to learn the hard way. Right.
Right. No, and that's great advice. A lot of our clients are current apartment owners, and so they've, they own 1 or 3 buildings and they want to increase the cash flow on those buildings. What advice do you have for them in terms of how do we maximize the return on our buildings?
I can't stress enough. This is going to sound funny, but don't be Mr. Nice Guy. Raise those rents. And even if you raise the rents and then, give them back $100 a month in plants or decorations, or what would you really like to change about your unit? Because when it's time to sell, and especially now, Juan, you're probably right in the middle of this.
Correct.
It's all about money. And you start out with the gross rent multiplier, and if that's not there, you're probably going to sell the property. It's going to take you a little bit longer. You're probably going to sell it to an investor who is not quite as astute as they possibly can be, and you're not going to get the value out of your money. So, maintain the properties. Before my people move in, I tell them right up front, you're going to get a 3 to 5% increase, maybe more. Long Beach is wonderful. It's a great place. And you're going to have to pay every year. I give them a warning, and they expect that. So raise your rents. Maintain your property is another great thing. Leaks are the #1 issue in, I think, any property. Mm-hmm. Don't save $1 and not replace the roof this year. Replace the roof. Caulk the windows. Mm-hmm. If you have old windows, spend $20,000 and put new windows in the whole building. Maintain that investment, because if you don't, you're going to pay, and you're going to pay dearly for it, a lot more than that roof or window cost you. The people that know me, they know I'm probably the nicest guy in the world. But when you're dealing with business, you really have to be concerned about your bottom line. And, that poor person has been here for 5 years and they lost their job, and that's all great. I've had people, I'm dealing with one right now that moved out 6 weeks ago. I just said, I'm sorry this all happened, but let me help you. We're going to find you another place to live. I'm going to get you a moving truck. Mm-hmm. And here's some contacts on where you may be able to get another job. We're all in this together.
Brian, are you actively investing in Long Beach apartment buildings right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then maybe shed some light on why you're investing in Long Beach, where some folks might say you're at the top of the market, there's a eviction moratorium, there's rent control, California is going down the wayside. Well, these are some of the comments that I hear. Leave California, but you're still investing in Long Beach.
Absolutely. I'm investing in Long Beach. The sky is not falling. I'm 71 years old and hasn't fell yet.
Okay.
But you know what? The average person has a negative concept of, what if, oh my goodness, this is going to happen. It doesn't work in my book. When I was asked to do this, I thought about a little bit how to prepare myself. And one of the things that comes to mind is the baseball player, Babe Ruth. I'm not a real fan of sports. I don't follow it a lot because I do all this other stuff. But Babe Ruth, the personality of Babe Ruth, he lived a fast life. He had some habits that, I don't recommend anybody has. And we all know him for hitting home runs. He's like that. Wow. Mm-hmm. But he's also the strikeout king.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And I think about that. I want to fail as much as I can, because I can't hit that home run unless I fail. Walt Disney's another great example.
Okay.
We all think that Walt Disney is like, the Mickey Mouse of the universe. Well, he failed. He failed a lot, but he was never afraid to get back up, and he was never afraid to that he hurt people temporarily. When he failed, he hurt people short term, but then he came back and took care of them. So, kind of remember that, swing through the fences, and who cares if you fail?
Looking back, I guess, more specifically regarding real estate, what would you do different in your investment career?
That's real easy now because I've lived the dream, or living the dream. I'm not sure I do a whole lot of different because I'm very, very conservative, believe it or not, very conservative. And until I got to that time in my life that I could start swinging for the fences, I was worried about everything. So I think now that I know how it turned out, I take more risks. When I walked into the bank when I was young, I probably would have been more forceful and not allow them to discourage me that they weren't going to give me a loan. You know, I mean, I haven't walked in the bank since trying to get a loan, but I didn't know what I was doing. You know, so I think I'd take more risks. I'd lever myself even more earlier.
Okay.
You know, that's another thing I would have done.
Okay.
Align yourself with mentors. You know, and I know your group. You're really good at mentoring people.
Yep.
That's wonderful. And the people who want to find a mentor, you know, they're not going to knock on your door. They're not going to call you up. You've got to reach out to them. You've got to say, hey, you know, Juan, I understand that you're a really good local broker. Can I buy you breakfast tomorrow morning? You know, or can I meet you at 10:30 tomorrow night when you're available? Whatever's convenient for you. You know, I know that Juan's a runner. If I was younger, I'd say, hey, Juan, what time you running tomorrow? 5:30. Can I run with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Juan, what do you think about Long Beach? You know, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not going to happen unless you make it happen.
Yeah. Going back to the one question about the characteristics that one would need to be successful, the one response that you actually wrote was risk taker.
And I have to preface it, get to that level that I keep, you know, repeating. You don't want to take a risk when you can't provide for yourself and your family. Get to that level. And then once those needs are taken care of, don't listen to everybody about the market's going down. It's a bad area. It's, you name it, I've listened to every single one. 20 years ago when I came to Long Beach wasn't a very nice place to live. And some of my friends chastised me for it. But now, I've been here for 20 years. This is what my first house in Long Beach. And Long Beach was the Naval Shipyard and the tattoo places at the Pike. You know, take that risk. I mean, I read about the council and how Long Beach was progressive. You know, at the time, the Queen Mary was coming, the Pike was being redeveloped, and these big plans for the city. And I had some dealings with my business with the city, and I saw the progressiveness. And so I said, Long Beach is the place I want to be. The first building that I bought in Long Beach was literally a slum building. You know, it was a crack house.
Yeah.
The second one was a crack house.
Yeah.
You know, but both of those buildings now, one's in Retro Row, but it's a great area, Long Beach.
Yeah, I love it.
I had the luck of saying, you know, the vision is 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
So take that risk. Take a calculated risk. Minimize the chance of loss. You know, don't just willy-nilly every deal you get involved in. Think about it. Ask some good questions, but don't wait. Do it. Just do it.
So just to kind of recap, so to get started or to be successful in real estate, you know, I don't need an MBA, right? I don't need a college degree. I don't need all these things that some of us sometimes think. Like you know, I feel like a lot of the folks that follow us or want to get started, they create the scenario of like, I'm not ready, or they think they need something. And what you're saying, you don't need any of that. If you're going to look at a deal and underwrite it properly, just take that first step forward is what I believe you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have a degree when I walked into the bank to try to get a loan, $20,000. However, I do disagree a little bit. You know, the moment that I got my diploma changed my life. You feel internally like you've succeeded. So to be successful your whole life, you absolutely have to go to school. But you're not going to learn that much in school. Sorry, all the professors that, you know, taught me.
Yeah.
But you're going to get that air of confidence when you get that diploma. And so by all means, go to school, but you don't need to go to school to be successful in real estate.
Got it.
But absolutely go.
Got it. You know, and I think that's a good tip. Do I need a real estate agent or broker to get started?
Absolutely get started. But going back to some of what I said earlier, find the right one. I'm a firm believer in looking for a professional before you need them. Pick up the phone today and call Juan or anybody. And I'm not favoring Juan.
Well, it's okay if you do, though.
I'm not favoring Juan because I'm an open book, but Juan's here because I think Juan's a credible person. But call somebody and say, you know what, I saw your sign. I want to buy you a cup of coffee. Spend 20 minutes with them.
Yeah.
And now, is that the person you want to work with? You know, ask them the questions about how many properties you own. How do you manage properties? And get the feel of the person. And then once it's time that you need that person, you're going to have them. You're going to have that relationship going. Because if you go out to try to find a piece of property, when you have the down payment, it's too late to find your people that are going to support you.
So there you have it. Find the professional before you know you even need them. So if you know at some point, year, 2 years, 3 years out, you know you're going to want to get started with real estate investing, Brian's saying, find someone, interview them, make sure that they're actually walking the walk. And that's a great idea. You know, any professional out there, if you offer them, hey, like, I want to pick your brain, I'll treat you to lunch or coffee or breakfast. Most instances, they're going to say yes. So that's a great tip, Brian. Can someone begin investing in real estate with zero money? No money down. Is that possible? We see that on the all over social media. Can someone get started with nothing down, Brian? Is that possible?
I don't think so. I don't think you can.
Yeah.
I think money talks. And,
Yeah.
I don't think you can walk in off the street with no money.
Yeah, and that's not what we pitch here. Although someone, we asked a question to Mark Milan, who we interviewed first, and someone did message me, and they said, well, actually, technically, you can. If you served in the military and got a VA loan, you could come in with 0% down. And to that person, you're absolutely correct. And there is an option if you served in the military, and it's a terrific program. VA is better than FHA. So okay. to learn more, reach out to us because VA will actually loan on multifamily apartment buildings for someone who served in the military, 0 down. Yeah, it's pretty neat. But that's the only time that I've seen it work successfully. So.
Okay. And any veterans out there that want to get in real estate, give me a call. I know how to buy property. If you have the ability to get in at 0 down, this is a win-win deal for everybody. Mm-hmm. And thank you for being in the military. That's the key.
Is there anything else you want to tell our viewers? Obviously the goal of this, of our highlighting successful investors here in our own backyard is to extract any knowledge, any tips that you have. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you just want to share with us today?
You're only as good as, the weakness in whatever that weakness is in yourself. Mm-hmm. And so it'd be no good for me to be successful in real estate if I couldn't walk around.
Sure.
If I didn't have my health. It would be no good if I wasn't a happy person. Like the holistic approach. It's not only about real estate.
Yeah.
It's about just being a good, happy person and being willing to, put it all on the line whenever you can.
Well, thank you for that, Brian. That wraps up our real estate portion. I do have some just quick rapid fire questions. And the first one would be, tell us the best piece of advice that you've gotten. And what is it?
When I worked at the equipment rental company, when I was an employee of another company, one of the two owners, for some reason, took me under his wing, and he told me, he said, it doesn't make any difference what business you're in. Just work that business so that you could buy the real estate that business is on. He says, if you can break even with your business and buy that property, and he drummed it in me. I worked with him for 1.5 years. When I resigned, it was like, oh my goodness, and we really did bond. But then he followed me after that. I competed with him. He helped me with my business so that I could buy the property.
Got it.
So that's a great piece of advice. The second piece of advice was from another equipment rental company in another country. He's from Australia, and he came over one day or 1 month, and he spent some time with us because I was in the business, he was in the business, we shared notes. And his advice to me was, align yourself with a good person. And once you align yourself with a good person, make a business out of what their strength is. And he lives this walk. He's got so many businesses now. I'll talk to him and he's in the party business. He's in the railroad business.
That's interesting. Your favorite book, all-time favorite book?
Actually, there's two.
Okay.
The Millionaire Next Door. And that's
Yes.
a real basic book. Every entrepreneur should read that and
Right.
live that lifestyle. The millionaire next door, you'll never know. He's just a down-to-earth person. The second book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Both these books are like timeless books.
Yeah.
They long time ago.
Perfect. I think that's a wrap. Brian, thank you so much.
I can go back to work now.
Personally, my biggest takeaway were three major points that Brian made, and one was one that I have never heard of. When Brian buys a building, he's paying himself. When we buy a building, we believe that we're maybe misplacing money, but not in Brian's mind. In Brian's mind, he's paying himself because why? That asset that he's buying, at some point it's gonna make him cash flow, maybe day one or maybe year two, but he's gonna build equity. So technically, in the way he sees it every single time, the more buildings he buys, the more he pays himself. And that mindset, I have never read that. I've never heard that from anyone else, but that meant a lot to me. The second thing is, Brian really pushes taking risk. When I asked him what makes a successful investor, his number one response was, you gotta take risk. That's it. It's not, you have to be an appraiser, you have to be a contractor, you have to have an MBA. None of that matters. Although education is important to him, he said you have to be willing to take risk. And I think he applies that to himself. And quite frankly, he wants everyone out there taking risks, calculated risk, but it's with that risk you get the reward. And then three, the last point was this. And again, I just love, it almost gives me the chills because just like you, I'm still learning too. I don't know it all. Yes, I'm an investor. Yes, I've been able to purchase properties, but this last point was amazing. Brian doesn't care if we're at the top of the market, bottom of the market, if we're at a stalemate. In Brian's mind, if he has enough money to buy a building, he goes and buys a building. That's all he cares about. He's not gonna wait a year in hopes that interest rates drop, or he's not gonna wait 2 years in hopes that the market corrects itself by 10%. None of that matters to Brian. In Brian's mind, if he has the funds, he's gonna go buy something. It's important for a lot of those folks out there that I know have reached out to me, who are viewers, who are supporters, who reach out, because a lot of us get stuck and there's a timing. We don't need to time anything. Both investors who are proven successful investors said one thing: we're still buying today, we still believe in the market. And I hope that resonates with you folks out there. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. If you got value from this video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We've gotten letters, we've gotten text messages, emails. For those of you who have reached out in any fashion, thank you so much for the kind words. And it's that type of motivation that makes us want to continue doing what we're doing for you folks, okay? Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.